Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? It is the day after Thanksgiving. I hope everyone enjoyed some nice turkey and some gravy, some mashed potatoes, and maybe a brewski or two. But we are back looking at the crypto markets. Crypto had a nice little Thanksgiving itself. We'll dive into that today. Plenty of Chainlink and Hedera news. And yeah, we'll see. Day after Thanksgiving, maybe a lot of people aren't paying too much attention to YouTube, but we'll take a look because we definitely got some Algorand and Hedera and Chainlink news today that we're all going to look at. But I will say, lots of looking at the charts, not a lot of red, a whole lot of green, especially on the 7-day. Kind of mixed on the 24-hour now. Some stuff has pulled back a little bit, so we'll dive into what's been going on there. But big shout out to everyone in the chat. How's everyone doing today? Let me know what you think. And also, you might notice if you're unless you're just tuning in, we had got some music that we added to the waiting screen. So hopefully, someone mentioned that they thought it should have had some, and I think that's correct because I got the waveform on there. So mostly, I just wanted a visual so people would realize it's a video, not static. But let's see, got Green Blue Algo saying GM. Welcome, Green Blue Algo. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna slaughter this. Vuka Stinmilikavich. Sorry, Vuka. We're just gonna call you Vuka, saying GM. What is up, my brother? And I got a little hot water on X from talking about this exchange with this Twitter thing that the CTO had with some people in the community. I mean, some people got really mad about it. I just thought it wasn't that big a deal. I thought it was kind of a non-issue, and maybe we'll talk about that when we get to our Algorand segment. He says, "Good, yeah, appreciate that." I'm sorry, I tried my best. I tried my best to pronounce it. I really did. But welcome to the chat, everyone. And I don't know. I think we should just get to the markets. I don't think there's a lot to talk about. We'll do the markets, and we'll give our shout out to our sponsors, and then we'll just kind of go from there. So. Oh, that's not working. There we go. Let's just start off with, actually, let's go full screen here. Yeah, so, well, maybe we can, actually, you know what? We'll do it like this here, but we got market cap, the total market cap at 3.14 trillion, up just a little over 1%. I believe that's the 24-hour that they put that. Coin market cap 20 down a little, just a touch. No longer in extreme fear now. We're into just the regular old fear, but still at a 20, so still pretty low. Altcoin season, definitely not there. We're still heavily weighted into Bitcoin. And average crypto RSI, this is very interesting, just sort of hanging out in that middle range, so not really oversold, not overbought, kind of just normal flows. And if you look here, so we've got Bitcoin at 91,000, and that's definitely an improvement in my portfolio. Ethereum popping up a little bit as well. And XRP falling back a little bit on the last hour, but they're still up 16% on the week, so that's hard not to like. We're well below $2 on that. Ethereum's still sitting at 139. I took profits at like 225, I think, on Solana, so that's still quite a bit. And whereas like XRP, I mean, I think I took some profits at 250. Or did it get to 3? Well, let me take a look here because I don't want to misstate that. Okay, I'm going to go, hold on. I'm going to go regular view so I can. Oh, yeah, no, I take it back. We were at like 350. That's right. Okay. My apologies on that. Yeah, so XRP, down quite a bit from its top, but both of these, Solana and XRP, I mean, I traded I bought in on XRP at around 50 some cents, 53 cents. I was joking that it was like a 53-cent stable coin for a long time because it always seemed to be right around there. And yeah, so 350, that was a nice, what is that, 7x up? Yeah, that's not bad. Solana I bought when it was like sub 20. So, even today I'm still way up on my Solana, which I can't say about all my coins. Some of them are just they're just in the trash can. I don't know what to tell you. Just seeing if there's any other outliers. Been seeing a lot of concerns about hyperliquid and security lately. Apparently a small number of people can really crash that market, which is very interesting. It's a little more above my pay grade. And then this one's interesting, Zcash just taking a bath. Seems to be a contraindicator from what I've been seeing. When the rest of the market is doing well, Zcash kind of falls back a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to double check that. Green Blue says, converting my tiny rewards to silver turned out to be my best idea of 2025. That is a good idea. I'm kind of doing the same on gold, actually. I've been taking, I mean, kind of indirectly, because I pretty much, as soon as I get my rewards from the stuff that I have locked up, I turned it into USDC, and then about once a week I've been taking that $5 and taking my rewards and putting it into gold and DCAing into gold. I think gold's still going to be a good play going forward. Probably silver too. Green Blue says AVAX chart looking really weird lately. We're going to get to that. Yeah, here's AVAX. Kind of following the same thing as XRP, which just came back a little bit. Let's dive in, why not? Let's look at AVAX. Let's see what we got going on here. So that's this is 1 year on AVAX. Let me pull this over a little bit. 1 year on AVAX, way down 64.5%. That might be an interesting. I might do that as a Twitter thread. Is just kind of look at where every coin is from like a year ago. It'd be interesting to see. AVAX way down. I bet Algorand's way down too. Actually, I know Algorand's like way down because I think AVAX had that pump just like everything else. But yeah, it's been on a tranche downward, hasn't it? All right, let's move this back. Hedera, I noted, and I assume it's still the case, but this morning I noted Hedera had actually flipped the price of Algorand. So now that's significant because Hedera has a 50 billion coin supply and Algorand has only 10 million. Now, a lot of the supply is out, but it's actually under too. It's about just under 85%, and Algorand's more like 88%. It just shows you that demand is more important. Demand and hype and desirability can be more important than, well, I shouldn't say it's more important, but it's a big factor. It's one of the two levers in there. Trinity AQK says Q&T Quant is on a tear today. We'll get to that for sure. I think that'll come up. We'll take a look as we get to it. Yeah, here's one. World Liberty Finance was at 32% up. That's involved with the Trump organization. They're pulling back a little bit. Well, let's see 24 hours. Let's take a look. What's pumping on the 24 hours we got? Yep, there's Quant taken off. So if you had some Quant, you're a pretty happy person. Let's put that in the context for a second. Let's look at the 1 year. I like doing this. I think it's interesting. 1 year, yeah, you're still down, but just barely compared to, what we just looked at with Avalanche being way down on the year. This one's actually, no, I take it back. According to up here. I don't know why it looks like that. It's just too small to see. Yeah, it's actually up 4% on the year overall, which is pretty cool. But yeah, you can see Quant had that huge pump in the end of last year, just like a lot of the utility coins did. Anyway, that is Quant, and then we got the Sky one, Canton. Like I said, kind of a new entrant in the top 100, and we're seeing some nice pump from Monero. So maybe some of the Zcash folks switching over to Monero could be, or it could just be, you never really know for sure. That is nice on the day and the week. Injective is up there. Stellar's up there. Render. And then, yeah, let's look at the weekly here. We'll get to Algorand. We'll get to Algorand because we're going to, look at the Algorand charts. On the week, it's SPX 6900, Caspa having a really nice week. And yeah, Quant is number 3 there with 35%. That's impressive. Very impressive. We're Liberty Financial, 32%. And we mentioned Monero when we were talking about 24-hour. We got Flare and Aave. And even XRP. Yeah, XRP down there, number 11. SWE kind of returning a little bit. And you got HBAR. Even Ondo down at 20th place on the week. So not bad stuff. It is nice just to have things going in the right direction finally. And instead of, everything was crashing, it was kind of annoying, but it was a good buy time. Because, that's like a universal principle of investing. As long as you believe in the asset, this is the caveat to what I'm about to say. If you believe in the asset, then you want to invest in the times when it feels painful to invest. So I believe in Bitcoin long term. I believe in Algorand and HBAR, especially HBAR these days, XRP. And so when you believe in the asset, you want to invest in times when it's painful, because that's usually when you make the most money. Is you make the money during the bear markets, you make the money during the pullbacks. Long term, like 10 years from now, Bitcoin is going to be worth way more than it is now. So I see these, when it pulled down to in the 80s, I saw that as a buying opportunity. And in this case, it's rewarding it short term. Sometimes it takes a while for that to materialize. Green Blue says privacy becoming a concern. Jaws was right about privacy for Algo. 100%. Now he's with Trillion, which is like a privacy compute layer. Not a blockchain, but it has a token. I should have, he kind of explained that, I think. I don't know if that really stuck in my brain. Green Blue says bought mostly GME the last week. So that's the GameStop stock, right? It's interesting because we see that with NVIDIA. NVIDIA dropped a lot. What's NVIDIA? Before we go on, I just want to see what NVIDIA is doing, and we'll go back. And it's still down quite a bit. Is it down on the 5-day? It is. Kind of all over the place on the 5-day. Way down on the month. And so I don't know. And then probably 6 months, it's like way up. Still way up from like 6 months ago, but yeah, a month down. Do you believe in NVIDIA? Don't you? That's up to you. And I know some people are concerned about it because Google has this chip deal with, Google has this chip deal with Meta, which makes NVIDIA a little bit nervous, makes NVIDIA investors a little bit nervous. But yeah, I don't know. I still have a lot of faith in NVIDIA, so I think it's going to be pretty strong. But let's get to... All right, so we're on Vestige, and I've been trying to look, but if anyone knows, by the way, I've been trying to look for a similar version of this on Hedera that has like this list of tokens and categorizes them and has price action and stuff. Kind of a weird, so Algorand at 1447, definitely up on the last 7 days, but I don't think that's, by 6.28%. I don't think that's giving anybody any comfort. Let's do a little TA here. So we're just going to put a few indicators, always on the 4-hour. I don't know why it defaults to the daily chart. Most of the time I want... Most of the time I want the 4-hour. Daily is kind of nice for looking at long-term action on some of these, secondary coins, but if we're looking at Algorand, we're looking at trends. And I'm just putting the relative strength index and the Bollinger Bands. Yeah, just like the rest of crypto, really sitting in that middle territory. So not really overbought, not really oversold, but kind of right in the middle. And, I always tell you guys, when you get really oversold, like, anything below 30, even touching that 30 line, but especially below 30, good chance you're going to see a pump up. Not a huge pump up in this case. Not a huge pump up. And it's kind of in the middle of those Bollinger Bands. So middle RSI, middle Bollinger Band right now could go either way. Not really a lot to give us a lot of indication. I mean, you can see momentum is going. But also, like, I think a lot of these things have to do with the broader market. And so right now, everything's kind of in that middle RSI, not maybe a little on the overbought side, it looked like, but not too much. So let's go back to alpha dropping like 18%. That sucks. It's like a little over 2 cents. Hey, this is still good. I'm still way up on the alpha that I bought, but yeah, it's always, considering it was at 2.5 cents or maybe even a little higher than that, was looking really good. Polka Gold up on the week at least. Haystack kind of sitting in the middle. Tiny Man had a weekly close up, which is kind of nice, but still, still not great. Still at 0.0, but just under half a cent, when this thing was like 2.5 to 5 cents, several months ago. That's one of the things you can't always see from these charts, because if you look at we can look at the long term actually. Why don't we? Moving this in so it fits a little better. So yeah, daily. This is where I want to see the daily chart, because it will just show this long-term trend. And you can see the long-term trend has been going down and down. Look at this is back in March. We're up at almost, just under 4.5 cents. Now we're all the way down to just under half a cent. So yeah, not the best play. And I think we're learning about what tokenomics work on these secondary assets. Basically, you have to have some reason to really hang on to it, which means you have to make more of a compelling case. Let's see. Yeah, Folks is up like 28% on the week. That's almost this has a really low supply, so this thing's at like $9. Liquid Hog had a huge pump up. I mentioned this the other day. Now this is interesting because I believe their whole business model is based on leverage trading, or not leverage trading, but what did they say? Let's see. Liquihog is a utility token designed to power the Liquihog ecosystem, enabling smart market analysis and strategic liquidity provision. Liquihog holders benefit from advanced trading box staking and community-driven growth. So they do some like trading bot stuff. I've been trying to figure out more about it because I do think it's interesting. But then anyway, yeah, you can see that was a very interesting chart there. Votecoin, I don't see Everyday Algonaut in the chat, but he's been sending me some Votecoin during the streams. Coop up a little bit on the week. 13, got a double digit there. And this one ticks me off. I'm not going to lie. This one ticks me off. Stupid Opulus. What do you guys keep buying this stuff for? They're not even on Algorand anymore. They totally ditched Algorand. I think it's really shameful when you take money from the underlying blockchain to build your business, and then you take your business and leave. I mean, I just think it's really disrespectful. I had a big argument with them. They did not, we got into it. We got into it pretty big time because and I'm like, hey, you can't dispute what I'm saying. You guys left Algorand. And do you see them talking about, and I was right, by the way, I was right. Because they're not doing anything on Algorand. You don't see from them. You don't hear from them. The token's still there. I think they didn't like totally ditch. I think if you had like the NFTs, I think you're still earning rewards, but someone correct me if they have one and I'm wrong. But so far, yeah. So they can get lost as far as I'm concerned. Mercury Index, this one is interesting. I've been kind of roughly keeping an eye on. I think someone reached out to me about this one. That's quite a candle. And it's been slowly but steadily going up. Anyway, this is very unusual. trying to go back here. That's a very strange way to start. This is a very strange way to start. Now, this was back in 23. And then, yeah, kind of turned things around. That's really interesting. Yeah, I don't know. So this is a very interesting chart. Very unusual from what I've seen in ASAs, but I don't know much about Mercury Index. Maybe that's what does it say here? MIT provides strength during algo downtrends and its paired real-world assets. Its stability by default makes it ideal for tokens seeking algo exposure with less volatility, enabling more durable and predictable liquidity. I mean, that sounds all great. This seems more volatile. This seems like it has more volatility, not less. A lot of that volatility lately has been to the upside, but still. Green Blue says folks starts linear unlocks in a week. I think I was airdropped 90 with another 90 locked. Oh, very interesting. Yeah, I didn't use enough. I'm pretty sure I don't get any. Actually, I should check. Maybe I'm eligible. I wasn't. Maybe we'll do it right on stream. I don't care. I don't use folks all that much, but I do use it a little bit. Is this still the first one? I got to connect to my wallet. Yes, AVM. All right, hold on. Oh, wait, yeah, I do have it. I'm just gonna see how many folks points I got. And sorry if this is boring, everybody. Nope, not eligible yet. Yeah, I didn't think so. I don't think I use enough. I don't use it enough for that to be the case. But so that's what's going on in the Algorand ASAs here. Also, something else. Algo 200 is way up. What actually is that, by the way? Okay, A200 does not have any utility and exists to showcase the power of Algorand. If a token generated by a team of Algorand maxis that believe algo can reach $200 per coin, as it solves not only... Oh, I'm sorry. It is a token generated by a team of Algorand maxis that believe algo can reach $200 per coin as it solves not only the trilemma, but more with post-quantum security. So there you go. It doesn't do anything. I don't know if I touch that one. I usually like it if they do something. Oh, in case you guys are wondering, by the way, this little, you see this ninja next to it? It means it was created on Rug Ninja, which is supposed to be a coin that prevents rug pulls because of the way it locks things in. Algo Gary here saying power to the players. Love it. Welcome. I haven't seen you in a while, Algo Gary. Glad you're here. Glad you're here, brother. All right, let's, this is the best one I've found for Hedera coins. If anyone knows a better one, let me know. But yeah, seeing a lot of green here. Not like a super impressive amount, but definitely this Gib one is up 2.6%. Otherwise everything's up just a little bit. Just these little tiny amounts. Or down a little bit, except H-bar sweet. That one fell a lot. Sauce even up a little bit. I remember sauce was like 18 cents. I was sitting pretty with that. Algo Gary says, top of the day, Frugal. Glad to see you. Glad to see you. So not a ton to talk about here. What's the most by volume? Sauce definitely the leader in volume, followed by H-bar X, then Bonzo, Dovu, and Pack. And Karate. I gotta say, I love Karate Combat. You guys watch Karate Combat? I really enjoy it. I actually enjoy watching it more than UFC. Some people get mad at me when I say that, and I get it. It's fine. We can all have opinions, right? But I think it's I just think it's more entertaining. I think they set it up more to be more entertaining. I think someday it might overtake the UFC. Maybe. We'll see. You can watch it for free too, which is pretty cool. Right on YouTube. Okay, that is all our charts for today. And boy, our frame rate is working a lot better. I've been more mindful of making sure that I have enough stuff turned off. Let's see, someone mad at me. Nobody's mad at me. That's good. Sometimes people are mad. Let's see. We got Algorand, we got Hedera, and I got a Chainlink video to respond to. So we'll. I haven't watched it. I just want to respond. I think it'd be fun. Trying to do more videos. And you know what? I don't have the. Normally I have the Eleanor Trentor show that I can go to, but she's not. She's taking the holiday off, which I don't blame her for. Oh yeah, man, I'm looking at myself in the X window and it looks great. Picture is great. It's not choppy. I couldn't even use those clips last week because they were so. Green Blue says, did you do the agent challenge on Algorand? Nah, I didn't. I don't know. I think they just found them kind of tedious. I found the Algorand stuff a little bit tedious. Like at some point it's like, well, I just want to do what I do on chain. I don't want to have to like do what other people are telling me to do. And a lot of the stuff, it was like, well, I liked Algo or the Astro Explorer arcade game, but like I already have an NFT for it. I didn't really want to get another one. It's like, so I don't know. I have very mixed feelings. Yeah, I think what we'll do is we'll start with the Algorand one. I'll start with the Algorand segment, and then we'll watch that Chainlink video, and then we'll get to Hedera last. That'll give me a little break in talking. And yeah, otherwise we got some cool Algorand stuff, so we'll start that segment. Hey, you know how it goes, like if we're in the middle of a segment, you can leave chats all you want. I just might not respond to them until after the segment, unless it's relevant. You know, we'll work it in, which is cool. You know, I definitely encourage you guys to comment about what I'm chatting about. Akamashti says, I'm stressing because Hedera dropping right now. Yeah, don't get too hung up on daily price action, especially if you're going for long term. You know, pullbacks are normal, especially like we just had a big pump up. It's usually going to pull back a little bit and then it will pump some more. I think Algo should be the first to move into physical trading cards with hidden QRs to prevent fakes and to change that industry. Just food for thought. Either sports or TCG would be sweet. Hey, I'm going to bring that up again. Easier to track things. I'm going to bring that up during our Algorand segment because that would be fun to include. So just give me a second. I'm going to start this thing. Well, you know, one of the biggest things that's most important for Algorand and other blockchains is to be on exchanges. I don't know if you knew this, I just learned this recently, but the top 20 exchanges have Algorand listed on them. So let's take a look at this because I think this is a really important piece of news. And this comes from, I got to fix this. This comes from Alex at France.algo. Algo is available on all top 20 CEXs. Did I say DEXs? I meant CEXs. You can also enjoy native USDC on Algorand on Binance, Coinbase, KuCoin, MEXC official, crypto. That's, I don't know, how do you pronounce that? I mean, I know I've seen this before. I don't actually know how you're supposed to, do you just say MEXC? I don't know. Crypto.com and Bitmart. So I made this nice infographic, which I appreciate. By the way, have any of you guys used Coinbase, like USDCA on Coinbase? Like, I know it's supposed to work. I just get really nervous. I should test it out with $1 just to see if it works. So I usually convert to Algorand and then convert back to USDC. But maybe I shouldn't do that. But what happens to it too? Do you have to convert to like the other USDC when you use it on chain? You know, there's a lot of stuff with there, but it is cool that it's on the top 20 exchanges. That's really important. You want to be on all of these so people can buy it. Because I'll say, like, one of the things that makes it difficult for me to get into a new coin is if it's not on Coinbase, because I'm like, how am I going to buy it? Like I don't want to have like 5 different exchanges. I mostly just want to use Coinbase when I buy stuff. And you guys know I keep like a separate Algorand wallet, but anyway, yeah. So I just thought this was good news, but not our only thing. Got plenty more to talk about here. I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm going to be diving into this more. A lot of you guys probably remember Sebastian Guillemot. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I asked him about this. He's got like this new Starstream. It's like a new ZK virtual machine, which I'm kind of curious to dive into. So this is not like the biggest thing in the world, but I thought it was really interesting to look at. And so he runs Paima Studios. It's like a gaming studio that's it works with Algorand, it works with Cardano, maybe XRP. There's a couple other ones, and it's just always interesting to keep track of what people on Algorand are building. And this guy's been kind of building even outside of that, which is pretty neat. Here's a new thing. Okay, so before I introduce this, and we've got some people talking about Algorand, some Algorand stuff, and I want to bring that up too while we're on stream here. But this is really interesting. Let me get a drink of water here. This is from Convex. Free money to celebrate the launch of Waypoint invoices. We want to give some money for the most ridiculous microtask you can think of. So go to waypoint.compex.io, create a new invoice for less than 10 of your preferred stablecoins, send it to Exiled. The important bit, add your microtask description into the memo field when creating your invoice. Standard stuff. RT this, follow us, Exiled, and share a screenshot of your invoice below in the comments. Did a lot of people do that? Yeah, they did. Payment for Thanksgiving turkey. Grant for building Compex NFT marketplace. Payment for survival kit to encounters with confused aliens. Yeah, it's pretty neat. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, what is this? You're probably wondering, what is Waypoint invoices? Creators on Algorand and Aptos can now send simple on-chain invoices in your preferred stablecoin on your preferred schedule. Perfect for paid posts, bounties, microtasks, and collabs. Create, send, and get paid how you want. By the way, this is my idea. this is something that I brought up because I thought it's crazy that Algorand, there's not just like a simple way to send somebody an invoice on chain and get paid on chain. And I had some conversations with the people who work at Compex, and they created this. And I thought, I think they might have asked like, what features were you looking for on crypto, something like that. And I was like, yeah, that's obvious, of course, like a way just to send an invoice. Like I send invoices to my sponsors, and I do it through email like a boomer. I know it's funny. I send them like a Google Doc invoice, and then I put my, they know where to pay it by now. They've done it a few times, but it's got the frugalbc.algo, which is my address. By the way, if you want to send me tips off of YouTube, you can send it, to frugalbc.algo if you want. And that's where I get paid from my contracts. And then they come here. And so now you can send them an invoice on chain. It just makes sense. So like, of course, this is like such an obvious, I think sometimes a lot of the really obvious problems that they could solve. And by the way, you can do this on Algorand and Aptos, which is pretty cool. But if this is what you want to do, so yeah, I kind of led to this. It was kind of my fault. And I think it's cool that they built it. Yeah. So I just want to shout that out. I think that's great. And you can actually send an invoice and get paid. So I think that's pretty neat. I'm going to have to do one of these. I mean, why not, right? Why not? And I thought this was kind of interesting. Well, let me address some chats here because Green Blue says I send Solana flavored USDC to Coinbase and then USDCA to Parawallet. Well, that's pretty neat. Just seeing what else. People asking about Robinhood. Don't trip by the dip. I love it. So I want to bring up, before we get to our next item, I want to bring up something Algo Gary says in the chat. He says, I think Algo should be the first to move into physical trading cards with hidden QRs to prevent fakes and or change that industry. Just food for thought, either sports or TCG would be sweet. So I don't, do you guys know Minner? Maybe I can bring him up here. So Minner created the Shitty Kitties and the Shitty Cities NFTs, but he's also, he just codes stuff. And one of the things he built is TCG Stacked. Now that is like a, that is basically like a, you know, it's a way to create a portfolio of your Magic the Gathering cards or Pokemon. I think he might be adding One Piece soon. I kind of want to get into that. I kind of don't want to spend money on it, but I kind of do at the same time. Anyway, well, I should be following Shitty Kitties. I'll follow that. So he's created this. I imagine like that's something he could do in the future. Well, I mean, not the authentication bit, but I do think the authentication part is good because, you know, I heard you know, I listen to Wolf of All Streets often, and one of the things they brought up is how do you truly know that something you tokenized actually corresponds to the item? In other words, like, yeah, I can say this is verified on chain, but like, how does that match with the real world? How do I know that for sure? You know, kind of food for thought. And I like the idea of having the hidden QR code where you could scan it and say, yes, this is a real one. Now, could someone like fake the QR code though? I wonder about that. So who knows? Anyway, I thought that was really good. Someone asking when Robinhood, and yeah, Green Blue asking when Robinhood. That's something we're still wondering about. A lot of us are very much wondering about. Algo says, I do know them. I've always admired. Yeah, very nice. Anyway, so this next item, this is something I was a little shocked about this. It's something we've talked about before, which I think is interesting. Is, you know, so this is from France.algo again. In the last 365 days, Algorand has generated 200,000 in revenue through transaction fees. 200,000. That's nothing. According to Token Terminal, Algo is currently ranked top 19 among L1s in terms of revenue generated. So that very tiny amount of revenue makes it like the top 19. And you can see this chart. I'm going to skip down to this chart. You know, Algorand, next up is Polkadot at 300, XDC at 600. So XDC network, which is way down the market cap table from Algorand, making like 3 times. By the way, it's not even 200, it's 194. So they're making more than 3 times. Stellar's over 1 million. Mythos Substrate over 1 million. Yet to get over 2 million, you have to get to Polygon. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, when John Allen Woods was on my show, he told me that Algorand was bringing like 2 million in fees. So you can see that the price drop of the token makes a huge difference because now those fees are like, you know, 10% of what they were, not even. Why do we care? Well, because the Algorand Foundation spends way more than this. They spend way more than 2 million a year, you know, maintaining the infrastructure and adding to the chain and doing all this stuff. So it kind of makes you wonder. Well, let's finish what he says. And this is definitely not because the chain is barely used, even though we always need more activity. Like constant 60-70 would be great compared to 26 average today. Algorand is one of the L1s with the most organic on-chain activity. And the real reason is simply that the fees are ridiculously low. Yeah, I wonder about that. Hypothetical 10x fee adjustment could bring Algo close to the top 10 in terms of fee generation, by the way, ahead of chains like APT, which is, while still being one of the cheapest chains to use in the market. So there's a problem with this. There's a problem with this. And I didn't know about this. I still don't know if it's 100% true, but people who know more about this than me have said this. Here's the problem. Those fees, the Algorand fee apparently is actually hard-coded into the smart contract system. I may be stating that wrong, but basically it's hard-coded. In other words, if you change the fee structure, you would break a lot of systems. So it would not be easy to change this over. That's really frustrating. I think that was a big mistake. Maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know. I'm no expert on that, but seems like not a great idea. So when we talk about fees, this is a problem. This is a big problem. Coupled with new use cases requiring heavy on-chain activity like agentic commerce, this could be huge. Now that is big. I want to talk about this. Algo Gary says correct. Okay, so I'm on the right track. And if I got anything like slightly wrong about that, I'm happy to correct it. Coupled with new use cases requiring heavy on-chain activity like agent. Oh, we read this. This is big. This is big because I think Algorand and Hedera both are going to be huge for agent payments. Now, what do we care about that? What does that mean? When you have, a lot of people are using LLMs, large language models like ChatGPT stuff to get answers. But the next step of that, and there's actually quite a few agents that are doing this now. These agents now can actually go and do things in the real world for you. In fact, if you haven't used agent.ai, highly recommend agent.ai. It's really helpful. It's there's like a whole bunch of apps like, even if you want to use Nano Banano, it has an agent where you can just use Nano Banano through it, and you don't have to, that's an image generator, and you don't have to like have an account and all that stuff. Pretty useful. You can get ChatGPT 5 access to that. I think probably Gemini 3 is probably on there somewhere. Anyway, it says, what's certain is that the next few months will be really interesting to follow, with likely great discussion, debates within the community, especially with the upcoming Project King Safety position paper from Algorand Foundation regarding Algorand's economic sustainability. Well, that's important. I'm very curious what they're going to say there. That will be, we'll have to cover that for sure. Let's see. Algo Gary says it's the trilemma. Everyone wanted low fees before they wanted number go up. Well, they always want a number go up. They always wanted that. Well, I think people thought low fees are fine because it'll be so used that so many people are going to use Algorand. It's going to get so much usage that it just skyrockets. Anyway, it's super crucial for both the network security and ecosystem growth that the chain generates enough revenue on its own, which we can all agree is not the case right now. Absolutely not. And if they 10x'd it, by the way, it still wouldn't be enough. No doubt that implementing a new fee plus an incentive mechanism approved by the community could be a major boost for the chain. Feel free to share your take on this. I'm sure a lot of people had. Yeah, I said it's a bit concerning. We had that on there. So yeah, I mean that's all stuff we got to think about, guys. That's all stuff people are gonna have to. Oops, I did not want to go to that. Oh my gosh, all stuff we need to think about. But that's not all. We got more Algorand stuff. Yeah, this one's a little sad, and I think Algo Scout is shutting down. This has not been an easy decision, but unfortunately it is time to move on. There's only one reason for this. There's not enough DeFi volume activity on Algorand, period. Last 24-hour volume on Tinyman is about 500,000. The hype of Folks launch is already gone. Telegram groups and even this X account have not seen any significant growth in years. This does not mean that Algorand will not succeed in the future, but in terms of DeFi, there's literally not much left at this point. Being a non-EVM chain with very limited options to move funds around has definitely not helped us at all. I'll still use Algorand, still be around, but all notifications will be shut down soon. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much. That's too bad. We were mutual followers. More structured selling, by the way. Important to point this out. Another 4 million algo. So that's something important to keep in mind. There's still structured selling. I just I don't know exactly what they did. We're talking a lot about structured selling though. And I don't know, this last one, did we talk about this? I think I actually talked about this in my last video, but Algorand is listed in the Smart Contracts Leaders Fund on Van Eck. Van Eck being one of the TradFi firms that's been heavily focused in crypto. So nice to see. It's a pretty small part, I believe, but you can see the breakdown. But yeah, Algorand in that smart contract platforms section. So nice to see that. That is our Algorand news today. So thanks so much for tuning in on that. And yeah, lots of cool discussion I think we had. Greenblue says, I want the value to be what is done on chain, not the mechanism that makes it possible. Let's see. Actually, hold on. I gotta go to my...
Cryptocurrency as a space. As a space by its...
I'm just gonna set that up. I'm gonna go take a little break. I'll be right back. All right, guys, I'm back. Thanks for hanging around. And we're going to watch this video. All right, so the title of the video is Best Bet in Today's Crypto Market, Chainlink, Stellar, or Zcash? What do you guys think? Which one do you think he's going to say? Anyone? Anyway, I want to... I'm a huge fan of Chainlink, so if I had to pick right at the forefront, like I'm definitely in on Chainlink for sure. Out of those three, definitely the one I would pick. But let's see what let's pull up the video here. Let's see what he has to say. Wait. Okay, here we go.
Cryptocurrency as a space, by its nature, for better or worse, is just characterized by the fact that everybody's looking for what's coming next. Often when it comes to altcoins, that translates into the next small cap moonshot. What a lot of people fail to realize, and I would argue fail to consider, is an examination of the bigger players, some of the blue chips out there that are already shaping the market. That's why I want to stack up three large caps here side by side, compare them squarely and directly, three altcoins that actually have a real history, real use cases in a very pragmatic sense, and very different futures, at least in terms of my interpretation. One of them, despite the market carnage that we've been seeing these last few weeks, one of them is still up over 1,000% in these last 3 months, believe it or not. And in analyzing these three established altcoins, I also want to give my take and my 2 cents as to which one is going to provide the strongest chance of long-term growth.
By the way, I really think it's Chainlink for sure. Chainlink has done such a good job of first off, developing revenue streams so it can be sustainable, solving real world problems for not just people who are interested in crypto, but people who are also like off chain. You know, people that, businesses that are like, don't even want to deal with the chain. They bring in revenue from that too. And Chainlink takes that revenue, some of that revenue, and puts it into a Chainlink reserve, taking those off-chain revenues and putting them on chain. I think it's a great model and one that others should definitely pay attention to. But yeah, let's see what else they have to say. Green Blue Algo says Stellar is like a well-connected version of Algorand. Yeah, well, I'll see what he has to say. I actually own I've owned a little Stellar for a long time, but haven't really paid a ton of attention to it.
All the very best of luck if you choose to invest, whether that's into these 3 projects or something else, whatever the case may be. I genuinely do wish you well. Just remember, of course, that I am not a financial or investment advisor, and by extension, it just means that this video is not official financial or investment advice. So in terms of the altcoins that we're taking a look at today that we're comparing side by side, I want to start out with Zcash, ticker ZEC. And this is kind of the anomaly in the market here. If we consider the last 3 months, I said this one was up by over 1,000%. Take a look at that. The last quarter up 1,243% since basically the beginning of September. Yeah. I'm going to get back to Zcash's numbers shortly, or at least the ZEC token, which have just been phenomenal, candidly, especially when you consider how much of a contrast that represents against the rest of the market. But if we zoom out a little bit further, kind of really the question becomes, why was it so dormant for so long? Like 7 years, actually.
Also, that's a lot of what Algorand's chart looks like, except that little bump at the end. Looks like a botched launch, similar to Algorand's botched launch. So if you guys look at the chart on Algorand, same thing. It started off at like 3-something, 315, 320, something like that. Sank like a rock, and then it's just never reached that again, which is similar there, but that only matters if you bought it at the very beginning in a lot of ways. But that is something.
Is the length of time we're talking about. One of the trends that we are observing is a very strong renewed interest in real privacy adoption. We examined this in more detail in this recent video, which also features Zcash along with some other privacy altcoins. So check that one out for context if you haven't seen it yet. What we're also seeing is that Zcash recently had more activity in its shielded pools. Currently that number is up about 30%, which is 4.8 million out of 16.4 million ZEC currently in circulation. And
by the way, when John Allen Woods was on our show, he's a big privacy guy. He said that Zcash did really, when they first started out, did a number of things that are really not good in terms of a privacy perspective. And he said since they've fixed a lot of those things, but there was a lot of, I wish I could remember exactly what he said. I should have taken note of that, but you can see that in my interview. He talked about some of the problems early on. And so they seem to be seem to have like fixed some of those things at least. So that's a good thing.
And this just means that we have more ZEC being used with privacy tech, which lowers circulating trade supply and tends to signal a true demand, a real demand for privacy.
Why is this guy saying Zed? He's saying ZED. It's like, it's not British. Just say Z like the rest of us do.
Project, of course, Zcash uses a very strong and proven technology. One part is the whole zero knowledge proofs, or ZK snarks. This is just a quick summary here. It's a cryptographic method that allows one party to effectively prove the truth of a statement to another party, but without revealing any of the sensitive information therein beyond the statement's validity. Zcash also moved from Halo proving system in NU5 in 2022, thus removing trusted setups and actually improving privacy and efficiency. So that is a real technical edge when you compare it against older privacy designs, actually. Zcash's ZEC token has pretty clear supply dynamics and scarcity. So like Bitcoin, there will only ever be 21 million ZEC. However, I recently showed a shielded pool usage of 30%, and this tightens effective liquid supply when more coins are shielded long-term. And in this case, scarcity matters for price development, of course. However, and of course, there are also some risks to consider with Zcash, despite the recent performance. Just for example here, many privacy altcoins are not listed on big exchanges. That's pretty common. There's also regulatory pressure on privacy altcoins. That has been the case for a while. That will continue to be the case. Plus, there can be compliance friction when it comes to KYC, AML requirements. But despite all of that, the current price of ZEC is $552 as I record with a market cap of 8.8 billion. Currently, we have about 78% of all these ZEC tokens are in circulation. which is good. During the last year, if we zoom out a little bit further here, you can see that this project is up. Actually, it's up less in the last year than it is in the last quarter. The last quarter.
So this is my point about supply. Supply matters when you also have demand. So ZEC has a lot of demand and a limited, the supply is running out. Total supply 16.4 out circulating out of a total 21 million. That matters when you have the demand. By the way, Catlin Guzman in the chat, welcome in there. And Algo Gary says Zcash is the Yahoo of crypto, while ETH is AOL. I agree with that. I think that's a good statement. Actually, I guess I don't know enough about Zcash to know if that's true, but definitely true about ETH. Green Blue says Chainlink is the only top 25 that will be likely designated as a security by the Clarity Act, according to Grok. Well, we'll keep an eye out for that, that's for sure. But yeah, let's continue this here.
Has been very kind to ZEC, up almost 1,000% in the last 12 months, but up now over 1,240% in the last 3 months. And certainly part of what has helped the price development for ZEC is the fact that the Winklevoss twins have launched a Zcash treasury company. And so things are looking good for Zcash in an otherwise kind of bleak market. Look, this may be one of the altcoins that you ought to be keeping an eye on. This altcoin buzz spotlight video is sponsored by SWI, because although the crypto market has changed, SWI keeps pushing. Ecosystem just keeps showing. DEX volume keeps making new records with 100. And for example, they have stable by LDS, BUID, and also next up, and at number 2 here, we're looking at Chainlink, and the link token, of course, LINK. With this one, admittedly, and also unapologetically, we have one of my personal all-time favorites when it comes to altcoins. You can find Chainlink basically back in almost every part of the crypto sector, but behind the scenes. This is perhaps an overused analogy, but it really is like the Swiss Army knife of cryptocurrency. It is a jack of all trades, and it's always kind of present, doing some work in one form or another. What may be most important about Chainlink, and kind of the one thing that no other chain really offers, is there is actual massive real-world usage and integration. Now, I mentioned it already that you can find it everywhere, kind of behind the scenes in the crypto sector.
Yeah, that's probably why it's going to be a security. Or a good chance. Let's see what Grok says. Let me pull up Grok. All right, let's see what it says. It's reading next post. Chainlink centralized Oracle network. Key provisions. Link is unlikely. Now see, Grok is telling me something different. It says under the Clarity Act, Link is unlikely to be classified as a security and more likely to qualify as a digital commodity, provided it meets the mature blockchain system criteria, which includes decentralization and functionality, ICO, legacy, and transition path, and regulatory precedents and community sentiment, and risks if not passed or amended. It did write a novel, yes. It wrote Chainlink the novel here, so yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I had to really scan through a lot of that, but yeah, basically it says unlikely. So I'm getting a very different answer from Grok. So I guess we'll see. I think we wait till the Clarity Act is finished and finalized and see what it says, and then we can make our judgments. But let's see. Let's continue on here.
This is not a hype project. This is one that powers data feeds, also oracles, cross-chain messaging from all kinds of different blockchains and protocols. It's actually doing real stuff. Chainlink also shows growth in various new verticals. So for instance, tokenization or enterprise, it's expanding beyond pure DeFi into TradFi. Think here of tokenized RWAs, real-world assets, and multi-chain layers. This is very likely going to increase its long-term utility. A great example here is its CCIP feature, which connects to over 70 chains. About a year ago, it actually looked kind of flat. By
the way, still waiting for Algorand to get on this. I think it's crazy. Why is Algorand not on this? It's like if you're in the top 100, you just ought to be on Chainlink CCIP. I just don't see how you can. I think that'll be a huge step up for Algorand when it does that.
Dead at a glance, but nowadays, if you check it out, It's pretty attractive by the numbers, as this picture here illustrates, or this graph. This also translates into revenue streams, of course, for Chainlink. I'm happy to say that Chainlink also has some very clear tokenomics, very well defined, which include a scarcity angle because the number of Link tokens caps at 1 billion. Currently, we have about 70% of those that are in circulation, and there's a relatively predictable unlock schedule. So we have each year 7% of Link tokens unlock. This continues, as you may know, until October of 2027. Link ETFs are also a thing in the making. Not a whole lot to report just yet, but at some point in the future, that's going to have more of an impact, certainly. But perhaps what's arguably most important is the Link reserve. Yeah. Each week, Chainlink is adding Link tokens to this reserve with no plans to use the reserve anytime soon.
That's what I'm talking about. They're taking that off-chain revenue and putting it on-chain. That's good. You want that, taking some Link off the table too, affecting that supply side.
This effectively takes Link out of circulation and adds to that whole scarcity component, making the token itself more scarce, of course. Currently, we have about 800,000 Link in the reserve, and that's worth about $11 million. But look, like any other project, Chainlink does have some risks to take into consideration. First of all, it is heavily dependent on ecosystem usage. So let's say hypothetically, if DeFi and other protocols reduce usage of Chainlink feeds, demand falls as a consequence. There is also, to be fair, competition risk and innovation risk by those competitors. Yes, it's true that Chainlink does currently dominate various market sectors, but new Oracle networks or technology improvements, those could be hard to predict. Things like that could erode this lead that Chainlink has, at least dig into it over time. Now, unlike ZEC, the price of Link has not had a good quarter. As you can see, it's down nearly 50% in these last 3 months. So we're at $12.56 as I record. And that's unfortunate. You know, this is a good project, in my opinion. I think that'll be something that a hill that I will die on. There's nothing that you can tell me about Chainlink unless I see clear evidence that suggests this is deserved. You know, I think it's a victim of the rest of the market. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Feel free to let me know why I'm wrong. But that's my take on this one. Again, a practical project that is suffering because the rest of crypto is, you know, that's not due to its fundamentals, in other words, and not financial advice, but at these prices, which I feel are deeply, deeply discounted, I will personally be buying more Chainlink. Last but not least.
Yeah, sounds like Algorand, right? We know this story. The Algorand folks, you know this story. You know how it goes. Doing all the right stuff, getting trounced. That's how it goes. That's how we do it. All right, let's see what else. Let's learn all about Stellar now.
Next year, I want to consider Stellar and XLM. This is the last pick, the last piece of analysis that we're doing as far as comparison for today's altcoins. This is a project that offers, of course, cross-border payment solutions on-chain. And it's built as such for fast, low-cost, international transfers. And at the same time, it connects disparate financial systems, right? That is one of its very strong foundational use cases. But Stellar is also on the forefront of RWAs, and it has a pretty great capability for tokenizing RWAs as well. That represents massive potential, of course, and opens up a pretty major growth pathway beyond just payments, right? So for example, Mercado Bitcoin, they announced a $200 million RWA issuance on Stellar. That's the largest investment platform in Latin America.
You know, it's funny too, because I don't hear a lot of RWA stuff in links to Stellar. I always hear Ondo, you know, which I'm a big fan of. I talked about Ondo a lot. Interesting.
And then this year, Stellar has already partnered with Paxos, with Ondo, with Etherfuse, and SG Force. It's also aiming as a project to increase the value of RWAs held on chain tenfold compared with last year. That's by their own stated ambitions. So if we do the math, that would bring it to $3 billion. It's ambitious, but look, it also shows that the SDF believes Stellar can scale RWA usage in a meaningful way within the year. So I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that goal clearly set. And as part of accelerating this whole process, Stellar introduced the PYUSD stablecoin, and you can already find tokenized US treasuries, of course, on Stellar. So, I mean, in this project, of course, we have a large ecosystem, an established network, obviously. Stellar has already been around for a couple of years, and the Stellar Development Foundation, the SDF, is what's behind that, because this gives it credibility as well as staying power, I would argue. But look, once again, there are some risks here for Stellar. They are not immune. And what I should point out is that, first of all, there's a pretty large supply of the token XLM.
There's a huge supply. Green Blue saying, Grok pretending like it never said that. Yeah, so you know, you got to be careful with these LLMs. Sometimes they'll tell you one thing, sometimes they'll tell you another. We'll really see when the Clarity Act comes out, and then the resulting, regulatory agencies will respond in kind. But I will say, you guys might notice the focus has been way better. I learned that instead of center focus, you should do single shot. It tends to be, for video especially, tends to be much more reliable, which, I didn't know that. I did, thanks to ChatGPT, I was able to learn that. I didn't get that from looking at, looking at videos and stuff. They'd always say use center focus. So that's actually, I think I finally solved this darn problem of the focus going crazy. So, so LLMs, sometimes they're good, sometimes not so much. You got to be careful how you use them.
50 billion to be precise. And what this means is that it may need large adoption to kind of move the needle sort of thing. For a major upside move, it's going to need large volume, right? So cross-border payments and tokenization have plenty of competitors. That is the reality. Obviously, Ripple, Ondo Finance come to mind. Look, even Chainlink that we talked about a moment ago. And so we find ourselves today, as I record, with an XLM price of just, 24.5 cents. So that's down not as much as Link over the course.
Same as Hedera, by the way. Hedera is at like 50 million. How come it's not like exactly 50 million the total supply, by the way? It's like 50 million, 1.7, almost 1.8 million. It's like such an odd number. Usually they're like a really specific. It's 50 billion and that's it. Now it's like 50 billion plus 1.786 million. Very strange. Here's the thing though, like it'll mean the price, so price is like 24 cents. Like Hedera's been like 14 cents. It doesn't mean it can't move though. I mean, usually you're going to have more of these when they're worth less individually. Each coin is worth less individually. So I don't know if that's really true per se. Not from what I've seen. I mean, Hedera's, when it's taken off, it's taken off. It went from like 5 cents to 18 cents in a day. Definitely sold some off on that, by the way, when that happened. That was during the BlackRock fiasco, which we won't get into because this isn't the HBAR video. But anyway, I guess the point is, like, in terms of like overall price, yes, but like price relative to its own position, I think we can still get big pumps on coins with a huge supply.
Course of these last 3 months, but certainly down a lot more than ZEC in the last quarter, right? XLM down 37% in these last 3 months. So again, 24.5 cents as I record, with a $7.9 billion market cap. Here's the thing. After almost 11 years, we only have 62% in circulation. 11 years. So kind of like Ripple, when it comes to XRP, the team here unfortunately still has the ability to dump XLM on its users. So look, if I had to make a choice between the 3 projects that we examined today and we analyzed, it comes down to a decision between Zcash and Chainlink.
By the way, Algorand's still dumping on us. They got the supply's almost out. They're still dumping it. 88% out. Still dumping on us. Still selling on us. So what are you going to do?
As a Chainlink fanboy, I would tend to favor Chainlink, but I cannot deny the incredible growth and presence of Zcash. So I'm going to try to put my bias aside. By the way, that's not to mention the fact that privacy should be available to everyone in crypto, just like fundamentally. So I have to say I'm leaning a little bit more towards Zcash and ZEC, but like I said, I'm picking up Link at these prices as well. Anyways, the winner of this video, quote unquote, in this case is going to Zcash just because of its recent performance. But let me know what you'd pick as a project in the comments below. Also, be sure to join our social media discussions.
Yeah, that's nice. Usually, here's the problem though. Usually once you get pumps like that, you probably missed it. It's probably too late for you. So yeah, I would be, me personally, I'd probably be buying more Chainlink if I was going to be adding to anything. I definitely wouldn't be buying Zcash at these prices. You're just, I think you kind of missed that wave. Maybe not. Who knows? That's just how I look at it. So I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys think Chainlink? I actually think Chainlink. I'm giving it to Chainlink. I just think they have the most sustainable business model. And I think a lot of other coins, a lot of other chains got to think about, like, what does the future actually look like of our chain? So anyway, good video. I'm going to give it a like, and I always share it. So if you guys want to go give them some love. Just going to drop that in the chat. And I'm dropping it on the main one, so it goes to all of them. Well, it goes to Kick and YouTube, so whatever. Greenbliss says, I pick Algorand and Avalanche. Mike Mars says, why is Quant ripping? Well, I don't know. Has there been any Quant news? I guess we can look. Let's look on X. Algo says, Stellar gets a lot of hate. I prefer it over I prefer it over XRP. Yeah, I don't usually cover quant. I know some people really like it. We should do the coin, huh? Okay, hold on. We're gonna do the coin. Just trying to see if anything here like actually. I mean, it's one of the big grainers. That's great, but you're not really telling me anything. Oh, look at BAT. It's up like 53%. That's wild. Monad doing pretty well. Yeah, here's the top gainers. BAT, Caspa, SPX. Well, how old is this? Yeah, this is this morning. Monad, World Liberty Financial, Vision, Fartcoin, Camino, Pendle, Zebek, Superverse. God, I don't. And then as a quant actually is pretty far down from there, but I think it's been pumping lately. Let's see. You don't need this anymore. Yep, top point. Yeah, look at that just go off. Not really seeing anything that would give me a lot of indication of why quant is ripping. Kind of doesn't look like anybody knows. I'll just see if there's anything. Yeah, nobody really talking about why. Oh, new CoinGecko listing apparently. That happened earlier though. That went. It's hard to say. You know, I just think we're kind of done. I think we're kind of past the days where. Oh God, Green Blue, you got to talk about ISO 20022. You're killing me, brother. I know you're trolling me. I know how it goes. Algo says, geez, dude was huge. Yeah, that was in the other tab, right? Where'd that guy go? Yeah. So by the way, we're laughing at the ISO 20022 stuff. I'm not doing my ISO 20022 speech. I've done my speech already too many times. I had a friend named B when I was in Taekwondo. He wasn't this big, but he was like a jacked Asian dude, like huge. The biggest Asian dude I've ever seen outside of this guy. And I remember in Taekwondo, we were doing this like arm bar where like the arm would be on top of your shoulder, and the instructor's like, well, there's not much you can do here. And then B just like curled his own body weight up to get out of the move, like just curled his body weight. I was like, he goes, well, unless you can curl your own body weight, then you can get out of it. Anyway, I just thought that was funny because like I've never seen another Asian guy that was that jacked, except for B. Yeah, so not a lot. I don't think there's much. I'm not really seeing much in explanations here, but I wonder if he skips leg day. Probably not. Quant Hulk. Guys, it's all happening. The great wealth transfer is in the early innings. Algorand will have its day, week, month, and year. Stay tuned and keep the conviction. Well, we sure hope so. Let's see. We'll see, huh? Well, good for you if you're a quant holder. You're pretty happy right now. We've seen that, you know, every once in a while, one of these coins just kind of pumps up. Boy, the spam. I'm getting a lot of spam on Kick. I must be getting some attention over there. I can't see it at all in my dashboard. Let's see. Let's go to. All right, it'll pop up here. I just want to see something really quick. Let's see. Let's go to. Yeah, that looks good. All right, it'll pop up here. That's the best my stream has looked in a while. I had to be really careful. Change code says I've been accumulating only algo up 250K on my way to 1 million. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of Algorand. Green Blue says excitedly checks my quant bag, still down 15%. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, kind of depends on where you're bought, right? All right. Well, we're gonna get our last segment here. We're gonna talk some Hedera, and then we'll probably close things out. I'm out of water too. I should have got more water when I took my break. I'm not gonna take another break. You guys have been patient. I appreciate it. By the way, appreciate everyone out there. And if you have not thanked our sponsors, I'll follow them back. Why not? If you have not thanked our sponsors, big shout out to our sponsor Haystack, the trading app on Algorand that is the easiest, simplest, and mobile-first way to trade on Algorand. You guys should definitely be trading on there. And if you sign up through my referral link, it'll help benefit the channel. And then you can give your own referral link out and sign up people too and get some benefits. So if someone signs up through your link, you get a percentage of their trading fees, which is pretty cool. So definitely do that. And then give a big shout out to our other sponsor, Marcus Aurelius, NFT and meme coin project on the Algorand blockchain, spreading the wisdom of Stoicism, which has been a really important part of my life. So I really appreciate this project. I think it's both of them have great founders, which is one of the core reasons why I will stick with somebody. Algo Gary says, thanks for going live for us all these days, bro. This wouldn't be possible without you. Hey, I appreciate you guys being here. It wouldn't be possible without you guys. And we got a nice little audience, and I really appreciate that. I appreciate people tuning in. Oh, I didn't talk about my controversy on Algorand. Maybe we'll close out with that after the Hedera segment. So stay tuned. We'll talk about that a little bit. Actually, you know what? I am gonna get some water. So if you guys can just, I don't need these on anymore. This is so much better, by the way. Single focus. It's like it just, even if it just adjusts pretty quickly. Interesting. Just give me 1 second. Okay, we're back. Let's see. Algo Santa, Mikey says, I need to slime my way back to the gym. I feel lazy after seeing that guy. Yeah, man, working out is great. Lifting weights is like one of the best things you can do for yourself. I lift like 5 days a week. I don't know if you guys can tell. Maybe not. But I definitely don't look like that guy. And, you know, that's the way it is. Anyway, we're going to get to this H-bar segment, and then I'll kind of talk a little, I'll kind of finish off with a little bit of this little bit of this controversy over the Algorand CTO, the new one, Nick Bougalis. So we'll get into that, but we're gonna start our more and welcome to the show. It says Algorand is number one. Appreciate you being here. Kind of a weird way to start off our Hedera segment, but hey, we're gonna get into it. Okay. Well, so, you know, it's just to set it up like I always do. A lot of you guys probably heard this a million times, but when I do a segment, I don't address comments that are outside of the segment. We'll come back to those. But if they're relevant to what we're talking about, I will bring it up during the segment. And I do these so I can clip them later, because not everyone, a lot of people watch either live or on videos afterwards. And there's some overlap, but not a lot, way less than you might think. Okay. Well, one of the chains there, I'll start that over. One of my favorite projects in the crypto ecosystem is Hedera, and I'm always looking for new projects that are being built on it. This one is really, really interesting because it's a stablecoin lending market and it's available on Hedera now. So let's dive into this a little more. First off, and I really appreciate this video from, or this post from Tata. It says C Sigma is live on Hedera. Earn yield with your USDC. And earning yield, always great. How much? I don't know, does it say 21%? That is pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Even longer in 15-day and 30 days. So definitely interesting. Something interesting to check out. Now we can look at the longer post here because the Hedera Foundation released this longer post about it. Through C Sigma Finance, yields in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem are now tied to real-world economic activity, with 80 million plus in fully collateralized, legally enforceable debt obligations. The team is bringing real economic value to the network. Now, you see why I like the other setup? Because this is like a lot of, jargon, a lot of stuff, why do I care? The first thing, I think your tweet, if you're going to have a tweet like this, I'm going to follow C Sigma, by the way. If you're going to have a tweet like this, the very first thing is like, why do I care? Earn yield with your USDC. Boom, there it is. Here's why I care. So I just want to highlight that because I think if we're going to sell this stuff, I have people come in my chat all the time and they're like, take a look at this coin. I'm like, why? You got to give me a reason. You don't just say, hey, do this. Hey, look at this. You wouldn't just go to someone and say, hey, watch this movie, watch Terminator. You would tell them why Terminator is awesome, right? I know it's like a really old reference. I should pick I should watch something new so I can update my references a little bit. Anyway, traditionally, if a specialized credit fund wanted to lend logistics company, they face a mountain of operational fiction. Setting up SPVs, managing legal compliance, blah, 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 managing reconciling payments. C Sigma solves this by providing the merchant experience for asset originators, tokenization standards, compliance rails, and liquidity management, connecting to stablecoin pools seamlessly. Through this, eSigma can then provide a yield to users. See how much they buried that? Do you see how much they buried the lead there? Anyway, can provide a yield to users that is simply the market rate for specific types of working capital. Consider a mid-market logistics company waiting 90 days for a payment from a major retailer like Walmart. They have the contract, but they need the cash today, buy fuel, and pay drivers. By the way, this happens a lot. If you deal with like enterprise customers, this is so annoying. I know a business that got a huge, they were making like these crackers and they got a huge order from like one of the big grocery chains and they couldn't fill it because they didn't have the liquidity. They couldn't get a loan to cover them. So this one, in the traditional banking world, access to this short-term liquidity is incredibly slow and inefficient. These businesses are often willing to pay 24 to 36% APR for immediate capital because the opportunity cost of not having that cash is even higher. Absolutely. That business had to shut down, by the way. So this is real. This is a real problem. So the first thing, maybe I was a little hyperbolic, but the first thing I think is like, first, why does the user? Most people who are reading this are not going to be businesses. They're going to be regular people, and they need that access to capital, and they're going to be wondering, well, or they're thinking like, what? How does this benefit me? Well, cool. I can get yield on my stablecoin. I can get yield on my dollar by lending it to these companies that need it. This is going to be pretty solid stuff generally, I think. And then, these businesses are willing to pay more. Now you saw in that little example, it wasn't quite 24 to 36%, but it was pretty high. And the reason is because they need that capital. It might mean their business. You know what I mean? Like I said, this cracker company in my city, which was, they got screwed over. A lot of things happened. They got screwed over by a snack box company right at the same time as they got this huge order, and they didn't have the liquidity to like keep their operations going long enough to fulfill that order, which would have brought in this big cash flow eventually. So this literally solves the problem that I'm talking about. This is solving real world problems. I think that's awesome. But I still like the way that he put this here. And this is why when you lend it that way, this is why. So it has Ethereum and Hedera being the second one now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play around with this. This is pretty neat. It might be a good little experiment. Someone just took the Hedera testnet out for a spin. H Barbarians. Yeah, I want to play this really quick here. So someone 10,732 TPS on testnet. I also kind of want to highlight though, my Algorand fans, we just talked about how 24 TPS is, we'd like to see that much higher. Hedera doing like 3 TPS. And the reason for that, by the way, is it was higher, but that's because one of the governing council members was specifically using, deliberately putting their transactions on testnet or on mainnet, and then they just stopped. And once they stopped, boom, TPS disappeared. So that's a problem. All right, Marco says, breaking Kenya is building a national stablecoin on Hedera. Africa just dropped a massive signal. Kenya is developing a one-to-one backed Kenyan shilling stablecoin inside the NSC Innovation Lab built on Hedera. Now remember, Hedera just had this huge hackathon. I mean, like tens of thousands of builders in Africa. Why Kenya? Africa has a highly advanced mobile payment culture, minimal legacy banking systems. That's a problem. A young, rapidly growing financial ecosystem, and governments already open to tokenization and digital assets. Here's the thing about like places like Africa. If you're in the US or the UK, you have access to banks. You're in the first world. You have access to banks. It's not really like a concern or an issue, generally speaking. I mean, obviously there's some things we could talk about there, but if you're in like some of these, areas like places like different countries in Africa, you might not have access to a bank. In fact, the odds are very much that you don't. And it's also a very smartphone focused culture. A lot of these places got smartphones before they got, traditional landline. Like landlines just never showed up there. They just went right to smartphones. So they do a lot on their smartphone. And so this is why this stuff matters. I mean, this is real financial inclusion for them. Now, Hedera is the technical backbone. Why? Regulatory ready architecture, instant finality, ultra low fees, built for government institutions, stablecoins, and enterprise governance. It's not just another chain. This is critical infrastructure. So, by the way, he's bringing up C Sigma, which we just talked about. More than RWAs, though, this is solving a real problem for liquidity for businesses, which I think is great. Let's see. Hedera is rolling out globally, simultaneously Middle East, Africa, Europe, United States, and Asia and Shinhan. I don't know where that is. So good stuff coming. It's got ISO 20022 in his. If you're a deep researcher, having deep researcher in your bio and then having ISO 20022 in your bio, those two things do not conflate. But anyway, that's pretty cool news, I think. And then we should go through. Well, first off, I want to say, I think I talked about this in my last video, but HBAR is now back in the Coinbase 500 or 50. I think it always should have been. Kind of crazy that it wasn't. I believe Algorand is in there too. I'm not sure. Now I don't remember. It was at one point. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. Do they do like a little breakdown? Nope. We'll have to look at it. They probably have. All right, key insights. We're just going to go through the key insights here. HBAR's circulating market cap increased 43% quarter over quarter to 9.1 billion, driven by a 43.2% rise in token price, while circulating supply remains steady at 42.4 billion, which makes sense. I mean, I bought a lot of my HBAR at like 5 cents, 4 cents. So I think average was about 5 cents. And, it's even today, it's like at almost 15 cents. So that's 3x still, even with the pullback. Hedera's stablecoin market capitalization grew 1.4% quarter over quarter to 115 million, supported by continued USDC inflows following the Q2 integration of Circle's CCTP. So that's good to see. Average daily transactions declined slightly by 0.9%. Well, that's a bummer. Although daily active accounts rose to 15. So you get more people, you start getting more people that are doing less things with it. And new account creation increased 178%. DeFi TVL rose 53.4% quarter over quarter to 113.5 million, with DEX volumes nearly doubling, and Saucer Swap accounting for over 2/3 of total liquidity. So Saucer Swap kicking butt. And the Wyoming stable token commission announced the selection of Hedera as the only additional blockchain candidate for the Frontier stable token, the first U.S. state issued stable token. We talked about this one. We actually covered this when that broke. So definitely a good Q3 for Hedera, and good to see. I'm still very bullish on Hedera. It's done well for me. That's something I can't quite say about Algorand. It hasn't done as well for me as Hedera has. So definitely something to keep in mind. But that's all for our Hedera news today. All right, how's everyone doing? It's criminal that Hedera has a 6 times higher market cap than Algo. Well, it is what it is. I will tell you, when I first started covering Hedera, I didn't feel like there was a lot of news to cover, and I would do, maybe a video a month just because it took that long for me to gather stuff. And part of it's me getting more into the ecosystem, to be fair, to be totally fair. But a big part of it too is I think there's just a lot more news on Hedera lately. So now it's like kind of neck and neck. I definitely have enough to make a video, really 2 videos about Algorand and Hedera per week. One a recorded video, and one of these one of the segments for our live stream. Green Blue asked, what city is Algorand moving to? That is the source of speculation right now. Nobody is 100% sure. I think Wyoming would be a strong candidate. I think they're probably going to stay away from places with difficult regulatory environments. I don't think you're going to see New York. I know some people said it should be New York because of the access to major ecosystem players, but gosh, I just don't know how you justify it when they seem so anti-crypto. Maybe that'll change with Mondani. Who knows? I don't know if he's going to be I really don't know if he's going to be super pro-crypto or super anti-crypto. He's been odd. He's definitely been odd. I thought his meeting with Trump was super interesting. I was fascinated. I think what I saw is someone who is pragmatic and knows how to say what he needs to say to get elected, and then knows what he needs to do to govern. So far, that's what I'm seeing now. I know, I'm sure I probably have some people who are not fans of Mondani, and I'm very objective about this stuff. So it's less about, ideology and more about analytics. Green Blue says, my old hometown of Sheep Dip, Montana, a candidate. Sheep Dip. Yeah, maybe. Sounds like I like that name. Sheep Dip. That's great. Yeah, I was joking about him coming to Wisconsin, but I don't see that. I don't think we have any anti-crypto regulations as far as I know. Let's see here now. I do want to. Huh. I gotta have it here. Hold on a second. I want to talk about this this controversy a little bit, but I have to find his tweet first. I wonder if he blocked me. Wait, somehow I get skipped all the way back to. Someone's, but once a month, someone's pissed at me. Oh, it's just all over the place. I hate this. They did something. They really messed with they messed with the bookmarks, and now they're all over the place, and it drives me insane. Oh, it drives me nuts. Why did they do that? Is it book? Did he really block me? No. Okay. All right. Now we can talk about it. I don't know. It's so hard to find. That's weird. All right. So this is the thing everyone was really, really ticked about. Now, it's important to keep in mind. It's important to keep in mind that he did not have the Algorand badge or the check mark at the time he posted this. And I don't mean to beleaguer the point. He says, I'm not sure why Twitter X simply refuses to show me the invite to join the Algorand Foundation organization. So this seems like, this seems really minor to me. So people got really ticked about this. From what I can see, it's like, oh, wait, okay, see. So he said, they need you to be verified first, sir, pay for the blue check mark. To be clear, I was being sarcastic with the I'm not sure, but interesting. That I simply refuse to pay for Twitter. Is there any concern of people impersonating without a check mark? I don't think the check mark adds anything in terms of protecting against impersonation. It definitely doesn't. By the way, I've been impersonated like crazy. Anyway, I guess people just get mad. So people were mad that he didn't want to pay. They were calling him virtual signaling, and I guess like I guess I can kind of see that, but I just like who cares, right? I don't know. A little bit of if you don't like it, whatever. I guess I can see an argument for yeah, maybe he should have just paid for the stupid check mark. But I can't like Algorand reimburse him. I'm sure they probably did. Anyway, I guess the main thing is like people like were really mad about me at me saying like, oh, he should be paying for this check mark, and it's about growing the ecosystem. I think there's this expectation because of John Allen Wood's managed to fill both roles as being the chief technical officer and being very technical minded, and also being like a front facing person because he's very charismatic. I don't think that's a normal thing for a CTO to be. I think a CTO needs to be building on chain. That's just what I think. But anyway, that was kind of the controversy. Some people got really mad. I definitely lost some followers over it. Whatever. Green Blue says I don't pay for a check mark because I bought Algo in 2021. Bro, it is a bear market. Alts are a scam. Bitcoin is king. I don't know what that has to do with what we're talking about. I'm a big fan. I have a pretty decent Bitcoin holding. It's one of my favorites. But I wouldn't ignore altcoins either. I think that's kind of silly. So anyway, yeah, that's really all I got this week. Oh, by the way, Crypto for Change got me into Banker, and it's one of my things I've kind of put on my list of stuff to look into more and learn more about. So yeah, maybe we'll be talking about Banker going forward. But anyway, thanks so much for everyone tuning in, and I really hope you guys all had a nice Thanksgiving. Hope you got to spend some time with family, maybe ignore the crypto markets a little bit. And I kind of took the day off a bit. I did some work in the morning, but got some stuff done around the house. And that's what you got to do sometimes. You got to spend some time with family and enjoy, relax a little bit. I tend to be kind of a workaholic, but definitely took the day, spent it with my girlfriend came over. We went to my parents' house and saw my family, had Thanksgiving dinner, watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which is the king of The king of Thanksgiving movies. There are a lot of Thanksgiving movies. I'm just kind of curious now. Algo Gary says, thanks, Frugal BC. Much love all and see you soon. Much love to you, Algo Gary. Let's see. Best Thanksgiving movies. Yeah, Planes Train. Oh, here, we'll just look. Turkey Hollow. That sounds really terrible. There's a lot of like kind of dumb looking movies. There's one called Friendsgiving, Home for the Holidays. Oh, it's like a 95 movie. I wonder. Charlie Brown. Oh, is Son-in-Law a Thanksgiving movie? No kidding. That might be worth watching, huh? Anyway, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Classic film from 1987. Yes, I was alive then. You youngins. But anyway, I highly recommend it if you haven't seen Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Classic movie. One of those movies, too, where like the modern smartphone solves like most of the problems there. But anyway, you guys take care. Stay safe out there, and I will see you